we go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Saturday. I have a very special guest with me today. I found her on Instagram, and first of all, her Instagram name just it just caught my attention. It was a retired BlackOut artist, and I was like, "Oh, she is like one of my people." And then hearing some of her story, Miss Kayla out of Connecticut, right?
Yep.
Of Connecticut. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Just to let everybody know, you can follow Kayla on Instagram. And is it just can you give me the exact so I can put it in the comments so people can find you?
So it is retired, period, underscore, period, blackout, period, underscore, period, artist.
Okay. Artist. Got it. All right. So you guys check her out. Make sure you follow her on Instagram. Show her some recovery community love. And super excited. Your substance of choice was alcohol, you were saying. And how did this come about when you were young? Did you have a family that drank a lot?
So actually, my mom did not drink a lot. Like, don't get me wrong, she would go out with her friends and drink, but actually she didn't really have, she doesn't have an alcohol problem, but my biological father is a heroin addict. And so he was in jail my whole life. And I mean, my mom would give me sips of like the real Zima, not the new Zima, the real Zima way back in the day. But
When you used to
honestly,
put Jolly Ranchers in it?
yeah. And like when my mom would go out like clubbing with her girlfriends when they were getting ready, she would give me sips, no big deal. And honestly, I started drinking when I was 12. I snuck out of the house with my girlfriend. We went to an older boy's house. He got us wasted actually on like grain alcohol. It wasn't even like good substance. It was grain
Wow.
alcohol. And, that night I actually was raped. And so it like kind of set me into this whole like whirlwind. I was in like a twister of figuring out everything, that guilt that you have as a girl. Like, I snuck out of the house. I drank this substance that I didn't know what it was. I remember physically vomiting, and still things ended up progressing with this other boy. And, from there it went on. It brought me into self-harm because I found that like harming myself really helped release that guilt and that pain that I was feeling. And I felt like I was so in control of this. Like, here I am in control of this pain, and no one can hurt me like I can hurt me. Which now I look at it and I'm like, wow, that is such a suffering.
Yes. I experienced that too in like eighth grade, seventh and eighth grade. I did that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I was on the brink of seventh grade. It happened right before my 13th birthday. Obviously, I didn't want to tell my mom because I had snuck out of the house. I had gone and drank. I had like all these things. I was like, oh my gosh, I did so many bad things. How can my mom love me? Was like really, even though she never proved any difference, like her love for me never wavered. It was just me. Like, how can she love me if she knows this? And
Right.
so like that guilt, like, oh, it ate at me. And so, and then when I went back to school, the boy, we were in the same grade, we saw each other. He told everyone how much of a slut I was, and I got slut shamed when in reality, like, I was dying on the inside. Like,
Wow, that is terrible.
every day was a battlefield for me to go to school. So I completely shut down, and I skipped a lot of school. I started hanging out with even older kids, like drinking with them on the weekends, drinking with them when I'm supposed to be in school, doing all the things to really numb myself and take myself out of this situation, I ended up staying back, which was a lifesaver. Again, like my drinking stopped, my grades went up, I got through 8th grade, you know, I had a really good
Mhm.
like friendship group that didn't care that this had happened. Like I was able to tell them like, "Hey, this happened and this is why." And my friendship group was amazing. Um, and years later I did eventually tell my mom, and we had a long talk and I found out that she had been raped as a child too. So like we were able to bond over that, and then it kind of just made me see that like it was my mom's first time being a mom too. So like
Mhm.
it gave me grace for her. And I think that's the biggest word that I've learned in my sobriety is grace.
Yes. Oh
Grace is
gosh. Your
it.
story is like so emotional because it's like uh like so much for like a teenager to go through. You know what I mean? And then having to
Yeah.
like be in school with him and like the oh my goodness. Like I just hope that he like repented and like turned his ways.
This I think the saddest part of the whole thing was that, years and years later in my adult life, I have reached out to him, and I just simply sent him a message on like Facebook, and I was like, "I forgive you." And he's like, "Forgive me for what?" And I was like, "You did this and like you said this." And he's like, "You wanted it." And I was like, "Okay, we're not going there. Like, I forgive you. I need to say that. Like, I forgive you. I hope you make better choices and Godspeed, because I cannot, like,
Yeah.
my own life. I need to I forgive and I don't forget. I can't say forget, but forgive and let it go. Let it go
Mhm.
has been another one of those big words, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, because when it's we like get mad and like want to hold on to stuff to like hurt that other person and it really just like hurts us and weighs us down and keeps us from growing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, opening up, and I opened up to my guidance counselor at school about this because, we had meetings. You were an A student last year. Why are you failing, skipping classes, coming to school, you know, drunk? And, I started smoking weed at that point. Like, and so why are you coming to school like this? And like I lost it and I was like, this is what happened. And so I never told anyone who it was because it just wasn't I just didn't want anyone to know.
Mhm.
Like I've talked with it with my friends know, my exes. I'm very open because while I was drinking, I would get to that blackout point, and then everyone was like, fight or flight came in, and everyone was here to harm me, even if they were a person that I'm in a relationship with, because now I'm too far gone and you're here to hurt
Mhm.
me. Like my guard goes up. So I had to explain to a lot of people, like, this residual anger isn't you, it's me.
Mhm.
Like, it's
Right.
me. And it took me a long time. And And now I'm thankful because, my guidance counselor she had another girl who went through a similar situation. And so I was able to be there for her and help her through that. Thankfully, I'm very thankful. I grew up very, I don't want to say churchy, but I grew up in a church. Like I grew up in a very God fearing family. When my parents divorced, which was another thing that I had to go through, when I was 14, my biological father came home from jail. Um, and that was a whole other roller coaster. I saw his addiction firsthand. Here in Connecticut, we have different towns and everything. And one of the towns that is very known for buying drugs and everything is Hartford. And my dad had brought me to Hartford while he left me in a car and he went and did drugs, and like it was just one of those things, like had tried to have me lie to my mom about his drug use, and it ended up being a very bad toxic situation with my biological father. We don't speak now, but I forgive him because I understand it now. I get it. Like, you'll do anything to get that fixed,
Mhm.
and I get it. So, when he came out of jail, my mom actually got pregnant and she had my sister. So there's 14 years between my sister and I. And I had it in my head that we were always going to be I was going to be transparent with my sister. So she knew, like, from a young age, I was like, you have to be careful, like, be on your guard. Like, if anything happens, if you ever need me, like, I will drop whatever I can to come and get you, like, whatever you need. Um, and
Mhm.
and being aware has always made me more okay. Back to the church thing. That's where I was going. When I was younger, I was actually at a revival service. I don't know the definition of a revival service anymore, but really you just gather, speakers
Mhm.
come, lots of prayer, lots of prophecies. And I was prophesied
Mhm.
over very young. And I remember it to this day. I was just in the moment, in the spirit, like in the crowd. I wasn't up by the pulpit, nothing. Like, and this pastor came off of the pulpit and came down and just started praying with me and then gave me this hug and said to me in my ear, God has big plans for you, and everything that you go through is for a reason. Don't forget it. You have a reason. At 10 years old, you don't know what that reason is. You
Right.
don't understand. So going through the rape and going through, and I thought it was my dad. I thought that was it. Like, oh, okay, like that's why. That's going to be the hardest thing that I go through. Oh, did God have plans for me? Um,
Yes.
so like every trial and every tribulation that I go through, it goes right back to that prophecy. Like, everything I go through is for a reason. I will help to heal as many people as I can, and that's been my, like, it's always been in the back of my head.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah.
That's yes, that's pretty accurate. When the Lord has like a high position of influence and elevation for you, the crushing is unreal. Like, it is like so unreal. Like, you're just like, why have I gone through all of this? And then afterwards you're like, oh, okay, I see. Like, and I'm sure all of it hasn't even been revealed to you yet, but probably you're probably
Right.
starting to see the picture.
I think I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
So I've always been very thankful that I had that prophecy, because even though, like, I know that the lows are low, I always knew that the highs are going to be amazing,
Mhm.
absolutely wonderful. So I did. I struggled throughout my teenage years with a lot of alcohol use, a lot of different, testing the waters. I never did any hard drugs, just because I knew, like, I saw what my dad went through. So I was like, oh no, I don't want that life. And
Mhm.
in my head, like, alcohol is legal. Like, everyone drinks alcohol. Who doesn't drink alcohol? They glamorize alcohol in movies. Like, oh my gosh, nothing's wrong with that. Like, I didn't even realize that, like, being an alcoholic was a thing. I didn't even
Mhm.
know about it. Like, I didn't know that you could have a problem with something that's legal and glamorized and sophisticated, and it makes you more fun, and all the things that you're like, wow, I want that. I want that so
Mhm.
bad. That's what I want. I want my life to be fun and sophisticated, and I want to look great holding a martini glass. And, like,
Right.
no one talks about the, like, downfall of that. Like,
Right.
being so young and having gone through that sexual abuse, like, I had no intimacy when it came to sexual relationships. Like,
Mhm.
I just hooked up with anyone and you gave me attention. Yes, I'm yours. Like, there was no like intimacy with it. And I went through that for a very long time. I mean, throughout my teenage years, into my 20s, right up into my 30s. I'm 37. I got sober October 17th, 2022. And I realize now, like looking back, like I've given so much of myself away. I don't want to do that anymore.
To
Like
people who didn't deserve it.
yeah, all the people that didn't deserve it. Like I was just willy-nilly out
Same.
there.
Same.
You know, I look
The Lord revealed that to me, actually. That's what he said to me.
and I think like, and that's like, I look back, I've got pictures of me dancing in bars with my bra on the outside of my shirt, just not there. Like,
Right.
I'm not there. It's not who I am. Like, and that's a hard part. And into when I turned 18, I started working at this daycare and I loved it. I love working with children. I do believe that is one of my callings. And I started working at a daycare, which is going to go into the cult story. This is
Okay.
where the cult story starts because there's nothing really great in my 18s. I went through a bad relationship, a very drunken relationship. My ex that I was with from high school to our mid 20s actually just passed away, and I don't know why. I have my suspicions. He he was an alcoholic. He went to rehab. He had diabetes. Um, he actually came to my house not too long ago in April, and he was like, "I messed up. I hadn't had a drink since August, and I drank today. I don't know what to do." And I was like, "Well, you'll start over. That's what you'll
Hmm.
do." And so we had a really good talk. We were able to have some closure. Found out that he was actually doing pills our entire relationship that I didn't know about.
Wow.
I
It's
didn't
crazy how we can
know, like,
hide.
right. Like, and I was like, we lived together. How are you doing this? And he's like, I had him in my truck. I had him in my work truck. I had that, like, I had pills everywhere. And I was like, but you were always like normal. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I started doing pills when I was in high school. And I was like, our whole relationship. And he's like, yeah. It's like I suffered with
Wow.
it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So like for me having that talk, I don't know if he ever got back on the wagon, but for us to have that talk, it was really something that opened my eyes. Like I had no idea. And he was with me during this time period too. When I turned 18, he was living in my parents' house with me. He he had a good job. He did all the things. He was the moneymaker when we had an apartment. I went to school and he let me work part-time. Like and I would never know.
Hmm.
But when I started working at this daycare, I met this woman who she was older and she seemed so sophisticated and so wonderful. And we drank. We drank together. I think at that point in my life, I was drinking every day. We in Connecticut, we didn't have package stores open on Sundays. So I would either stock up on Saturday or drive to Massachusetts where the package stores open. And I would have to like make this trip and like be like, okay, in the morning I'm gonna go there. And this is like to plan out this drinking and like to have enough because
Hmm.
it's never enough.
Right.
So I had to
Right.
make sure like, oh my gosh, we need like 2 handles of this and we need this and we need this. So we drank together. Her and I throughout our relationships, she had this crazy life too that I was like so impressed with. That she was the director of this daycare. She went to school to be a teacher. And in my head, I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is amazing. She's an alcoholic. I didn't know any different. Um,
Hmm.
and we would drink together every night. Like I would get out of work and we would go to like one bar on this day and one bar on this day and her house on these days and it was just this thing all the way up until oh my gosh, I think I was like 26 and we were doing this every day, going and drinking, going and drinking, going and drinking. And then we had and like she was like a Beachbody trainer, so she was my Beachbody coach. She was this, she was that. We talked about God. We talked about our religion. She grew up in a very God-fearing home too. Her mom was actually a nun who left the convent and adopted her because she just wanted to adopt a child and she couldn't have any children. And so she grew up in a very church-going family too. So we like had this connection about God, about life, about this, about that. And so we stayed in together all the way through that, like best of friends. My family was like, you guys are more than friends. And I was like, no, I love her soul. I just love her. I love being around her. She makes me happy, but not in like a weird sexual way, like in just like
Mhm.
a friendship. Like, and so that happened. She ended up um, getting into like this big accident. And so she was in the hospital, like everything happened. She ended up having like a huge, like she tore off half of her skin on her face and it was a drunk driving accident. And so after that, she was like, oh, God opened up my third eye. That should have been the warning right there, but it wasn't. I was like, yes, you're right. Like now you can see more clearly. And oh my gosh. And so it started with Beachbody. We were working out together. We were doing this together. We were Beachbody, Beachbody, Beachbody. And then she went into nutrition. And then it was nutrition. And then she went into spiritual stuff. Mind you, I'm already very spiritual. So I was like, oh,
Mhm.
this is it. Like we're gonna I'm like, we're gonna light the earth on fire and we're gonna save people. Mind you, we're both still drunks. Like, who are
Mhm.
we saving right now? We're
Right.
like drunk on wine over here and stuffing our faces with like hot dogs and chips. Like, who are we saving? But like went through this big thing and then slowly it like turned into her being like, and I was living with a new boyfriend at the time, and she was like, he's evil. You need to get away from him. You need to get away. Come live with me. And I was like, okay. And I just left my apartment, like, didn't take any of my stuff with me, like, packed a bag and left my apartment and went
Wow.
and stayed in her house. And like, then she was like, I need your bank card. So I gave her my bank card. Like, what? My friend's not going to hurt me. And I don't think that it started out maliciously. I really
Uh-huh.
don't. But she ended up like having, I want to say like 10 to 12 other people that would come and like stay in the house and like follow her words. And we just all like blindly were like, yes, this is it. Like, so that's all happening. She ended up like draining my bank accounts. I quit my job. I like left my boyfriend. I didn't talk to my family. And I just followed her so blindly. And so like there were things like I would still talk to my parents here and there, but not a lot. And then the summer, I want to say it was July, probably 2000, either 2020 or 2021. And she took my phone, she took my bank card, she took the keys to my car. She like, and then she's like, we're going to Vermont. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, yes, let's go to Vermont. So fifth, like I think there was there was 9 of us that went to this Airbnb in Vermont. And from the moment we walked in the door, she was just handing me glasses of vodka, like handing me, oh, like you need to drink more vodka. You need to drink more vodka. You need to just like have fun, let go. Like I don't want you to come upstairs right now. And just kept bringing me down glasses and glasses and glasses of vodka. And I was like, okay, like whatever. I'm playing foosball. I'm clear. I can't be looking great because of the way that I drink, like I get
Yeah.
sweaty, I get messy, my eyes get a little googly, like
Right.
there are all these tells. Well, I don't know what ends up happening because now I'm blackout. Like I don't remember anything from the night. I wake up in the morning. on the floor, soaking wet with bruises all over my body, straight bruises. And
Wow.
so I'm like, what happened? My phone's gone. I don't have my debit card. I don't even have a car in Vermont. Like, I've got nothing. No one's there. Like, everyone left. And I'm covered in bruises, soaking wet, hungover on the floor. And so all of a sudden someone comes out and I was like, what happened? And he's like, you and her got into a huge fight. You told her that you wanted to go home. She picked you out, like threw you out of the chair, threw the chair at you, waterboarded you, like grabbed you by your hair, like pulled you around the house, like literally all this stuff that she did to me while I was completely blackout. And this person in my head, I'm like, that's my best friend. Like, she wouldn't do that. Like, that's my person. Still not seeing these terrible things. Like, I'm still like, no, she wouldn't do that. Like, the bruises, the water, like the wetness, everything. And I'm like, no, no. She gets back from wherever she was and she was like, you were like the exorcist and things were spewing out of you. Everyone was afraid of you. Everyone went to bed. I had to take action and I had to like sit on your chest and like pour water down your throat and all this stuff, and like taking everything that this person said and making it like a completely different thing. I
Mm-hmm.
called your boyfriend. He's coming to pick you up. I was like, okay, well, can I have my phone so that I can be ready for when he gets here? Because I want to go home. She never called him. She never gave me back my phone. Like, everything happened. We get back into Connecticut. She's like, your phone has been ringing nonstop. You need to talk to these people. My parents called the police because they were afraid that like something terrible happened, because they had no idea that I was with her in Vermont. Like, no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the police showed up at my boyfriend's house, broke into his house to search to make sure, like a wellness check, that I wasn't dead. Like, all this stuff happened. So we ended, like, I'm still at her house. Like, still, I'm like, oh no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Didn't leave, stayed there. We went to another house, like another Airbnb in Vermont. And again, it was the same thing where she was like just having me drink all the time, like having me drink, having me drink.
Who were the other people?
There was a family. There was like like a husband and a wife and their 3 kids, like another girl, her boyfriend at the time. And the family was like, what they figured it out. They like stayed nice. And then when we got back to Connecticut, they were like, never call us again, blocked her completely, like removed, like, I think they moved out of Connecticut. Like, they were like, we need to get away from her. She's crazy. They moved.
Wow.
So then it was her boyfriend, another girl, and another boy who came out of the woodwork. Like, I don't know where this boy came from. And so she rented another Airbnb in Vermont. We went back to Vermont. And that's when like more crazy, like that's when like it started, like I started realizing it. Like, this is not okay. I would be sneaking. Like, she made sure that my bedroom was right next to her bedroom. And like the house was creaky, everything was creaky. So I would like sneak downstairs just to get some water because I was like dying of thirst. She had started like sleep depriving me. I would fall asleep and she would wake me up. Like, I would like start taking a nap and she's like, that's how the devil is going to get inside your brain. And but like all this stuff. And I was so brainwashed by it. I just followed her still so blindly, but like the sleep depriving, the like she like would hide the food, like she would fill up water bottles and give me them, and it was wine. Like, it wasn't actual water. Like, and I was so thirsty. I just remember being so tired and so thirsty. And like I was like, I just want to go home. Like, I just want to go home. And so my ex was like, you need to come and pick up your stuff. Well, she wouldn't let me go by myself. when we got back from Vermont, she came with me, and I must have looked horrible because he was like, "Can you give us some time? Why don't you go get a coffee?" And she, like, as soon as her car left, I like started bawling hysterically. And he's like, "You're not okay. What is happening? Like, how can we fix this?" Because I was so intertwined and like so I was malnourished. I was had dehydrated. I didn't have sleep. Like I went through this whole thing and like there's a lot more, but like there's parts of it that like I look back and I'm like, how was I so brainwashed? Like how did I let this happen? But in my head, like that's my friend. Like my friend's not going to do
Mhm.
anything to hurt me. But she had got like that. I really think that accident sent her off a deep end and like she didn't know how to get back
Something came
herself.
inside of her.
Yeah, like her third eye that opened was not God. That was not God. Um,
Mm-mm.
so he ended up like taking the night off from work. He went with me, got my stuff from her house, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, she'll call you later. She'll call you later." He was like, "You need to block her phone number. You need to block her on Facebook. If we need to change your phone number." But he like
Mhm.
stayed with me. He told my parents everything that happened. Like he brought me back to reality because I was gone. I was so gone. And there's a part where like she was doing witchcraft too. And here I am, like knowing that it's wrong, but
Mhm.
also not understanding how to stop it. Like,
Mhm.
we definitely, at one point, it was like all the girls that were following her gathered around a fire, doing a seance, and I was like, this, like, I know this is wrong. Like,
Mhm.
I know this is wrong, but I didn't know how to stop it. So I just followed it and like I didn't want to rock the boat and I was, and thankfully like I did. He ended up, he put his foot down. That was enough. We weren't doing this anymore. I got in touch with a therapist because I was not okay. Um,
Right.
he, he really did. He really helped me out of that situation and come to find out like she really was like while I was blackout was like beating me. Her her boyfriend ended up getting in contact with my boyfriend and he was like, while Kayla was blackout, she would like physically hurt her. Like she threw her down the stairs. She would see how far she could hurt her physically. And he's like, I just want to say, like, I'm sorry that I didn't intervene, and so that all happened. I got out, I talked to a therapist, and ended up happening. Some big thing happened. They went to New Hampshire, and a big thing happened in New Hampshire. Like, she tried to beat up more people that were following her. The cops were called. This happened. They filed, like, the girls came back to Connecticut, filed restraining orders against her. The cops actually gave them the same therapist name as me because I wasn't in a place that I could reach out to these other women
Right.
that went through the same, like I wasn't there yet. Like now I'm in a good place. Like one of the girls and I are still very close and we talk about it. Like, how did we let this happen? Like,
Well, when people are doing witchcraft on you and you're being sleep deprived, I mean, that's how they use these things. It's like a, SRA, occult practices. So it's just wild that it was like a lady to me because
right,
my experience was men, you know what I mean? Which, was a lot of other things too, right? But like to hear like a lady I mean, that is just like mind blowing. I mean, it's just she must have been, some kind of you know, witch in like the what do they call it? Like the one of those like bride of Satan occults or something like that.
right,
Yeah.
right. And now, I mean, now thankfully, like she doesn't have a following. I knew, like, I couldn't even drive by her house for the longest time because I would have such,
Mhm.
like, bad panic attacks. She moved out,
Mhm.
like, she lost her house, like, things happened, and I was like, "Okay, like, I'm okay. I'm good." Like, and then, honestly, again, sobriety really helped me see, like, you made it out of this. This is now another thing. I volunteer with the crisis hotline now, and a girl came and she was like, "I just left my cult and this," and I was like, "You're it. You're why. You're my why
Yes.
of why this happened. Like, I get
Mhm.
you." And so, like, it was that moment that I was like, okay, this connects again back to that prophecy from God. Like, you got to go through these
Mhm.
things to help other people. And I was like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I know. We're like sometimes like, couldn't you have picked someone else?
Why?
Like, do I really? Does this really? But
Like,
yes, I understand 100%.
even
Mhm.
when people are like, well, you're a warrior. And I was like, but I don't want to be sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I just want to be like, I want to be saved myself. Like, I just want, like, I want a little cuddle. Like, I don't want to be a warrior.
Can we
Um,
just have some peace for a little
right,
while?
right. With my drinking, I got my first DUI in 2012. I got my second DUI in 2015. And I got my third DUI in 2022. Um, and that DUI, I will say it repeatedly, it saved my life. It opened my eyes. Um, I had very strict laws on drinking into my 30s because I can't drink every day. I can't
Mhm.
drink every day and go to work. I
Mhm.
work and I have worked at a Catholic school, so I can't do it. I can't get up and
Mhm.
like be functioning. So I'd be like, okay, Friday and Saturday you can drink, but that's it. So I made the most out of Fridays and Saturdays. I would drink and drink and drink. And so it was 2022. It was the last Sunday of summer vacation before school started. So August 21st, 2022, I went out, I drank pickle martinis and shots of tequila, and I drove my car right into a brick mailbox. Like, straight full force, didn't stop at a stop sign, went right into a brick
Wow.
mailbox. Um, Thankfully, again, I'm so grateful that no one was hurt but me. Um, Totaled my car. I called the police on myself. I was like, that I called the police. I called my mom and I was like, I'm gonna go to jail. Um, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. Still at that point, I was like, I don't have a drinking problem. I just, I need a break. Um, Found out, obviously, that I was going to jail. Called a lawyer, got a lawyer, was like, I don't want to go to jail. Like, that's the only thing that I don't want to go to jail. Anything else, I will do. And I will be on
Mhm.
probation for the next 25 years. I don't want to go to jail. Um, and the lawyer was like, well, it would look really good if you started talking to an addiction counselor. And I was like, okay, whatever. Mind you, I'm still drinking. I'm still like living the life. I'm not driving because I don't have a license. So I'm sitting in my bedroom getting drunk by myself. Like, I'm not going out with anyone. I'm not doing anything. I start talking to this addiction counselor and she's like, so do you think you're an alcoholic? And I said, no. She said, you don't think that you're an alcoholic? I said, no. Okay. She figured out like my language. She said, I'm going to challenge you and give you homework. I want you to go to AA. I said, okay, I can go to AA. And I went to AA, and I will say that I was so negative in AA. I went to a women's group because I was like, well, that's who I'm going to feel more comfortable with. Well, they're sharing their stories. They're talking about how the sun is more bright and the sky is more blue and life is better when you're sober. And I'm like, you're crazy. Life is not better when you're sober. But like something clicked and I was like, I want to go to another one and see like what happens. Like what did these people say? And I'm doing this all on Zoom because it's still like at the end of COVID era and like all this stuff. So I'm like, I want to go to another one. I go to another one and there's younger people and their stories. And I'm like, oh my God. So I started going to this one Zoom AA every day. And then that following week, because I don't drink during the week, so I hadn't drank Monday through Friday. That Friday, I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to drink tonight. Like, I got a good message. I'm going to go on this AA meeting and like, I'm going to see it through. The following weekend after that, I was like, I made it last weekend. I wonder if I can make it this weekend. I start connecting with the people in AA. I start really like putting my all in. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do 90 and 90. I did my 90 and 90. I found out that, yes, I will be going to jail. I went into jail March 2nd, 2023, 4 months sober, and just living the most honest life that I could live. Like that fear of going to jail was still there, but I was like, I'm going to take everything I can take out of this jail. So like, I'm going to take everything out of this sentence. I'm going in and I'm going to meet people and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do like, it's going to be amazing. I ended up being in a program for drunk drivers. Had to do meetings. I had to do like all these service hours. I did all of this. I ended up getting released 75 days into my sentence on parole. I had an ankle monitor. I continued to go to AA here and there. I no longer go to AA. For me personally, it might ruffle some feathers, but the way that I believe is God said, give it to me and you're healed. So that's how I look at it now. I don't need to keep reliving because God said I'm healed. I actually have no desire to drink, like zero desire. I still get triggered here and there. I'm not gonna say like, oh, I don't get triggered. I get triggered, but I get triggered and then I turn to God and I'm like, this is yours. You said this. This is yours. It's not mine. And this trigger is it's the devil. So take it. Like I'm done. And I really do think that accident and that DUI, that jail sentence, that saved my life. And it really rekindled my relationship with God that was severed from everything. You can't have a relationship with God if you're drunk. Like you don't see things clear. And like having that, like your mental state, I've read up on it, you're too open to let demons and negativity in. Like it actually physically cause those blackouts, allow other things into your brain and like allow those attacks. And I'm no longer willing to be attacked.
Close the
So,
door.
right. So that is that. And that, yeah, that's where we are. We are living, honestly, the best life. I hate the term I'm in my healing era because it's not an era. I'm healing lifestyle. Like I am doing all the things to heal and reconnect and build myself. I can say at this time in my life, I love myself fully. I love sharing my story. I love helping other people. I love that I'm happy. And I've never been happy. Like I don't think I've ever been happy. Like genuinely happy. And that happiness, I'm not willing to budge. Like and I think that's where it comes from. Like everyone's like, oh, well, you don't go to AA anymore. I have a great support system. I have a great support system. When I was in jail, I had nuns praying for me and sending me brochures. Like it was just a different lifestyle. And I'm very, very grateful every day. I still do my like gratitude journaling. I still do, I I don't have to spend the money on booze, like thinking that it's going to heal me. I spend the money on getting a massage. Like I got my
Yes.
first massage this summer and I was like, oh, I'm addicted to this feeling. Like, yes, like,
That's my day job.
oh my gosh, I love that. Like,
Yes.
like I wish, I know it's going to sound, but like, I wish I could like be okay doing that because I think it's such a healing process. Like, nothing makes me feel better than getting a massage. Like I go monthly now. Like that is what I spend, and
Mhm.
I'm okay with that. Like I will spend my money on that and not on handles of alcohol that I'm hiding in my bedroom. You know,
Right.
my mom is my biggest supporter. She literally, like, if I'm having a day, she reminds me. She's like, "Oh, well, remember, like this is, this is your path." I'm like, why does it have to be my path? Why do I have to do this? And but it's my path, and I finally feel like this I was meant to be a sober person. I was meant to
Mhm.
not put these toxins into my body. I was smoking cigarettes, I was vaping nicotine. I no longer do that. Like I still drink coffee. I'm not giving that up.
Yeah.
That is not going anywhere.
I'm
But
pretty big into coffee myself.
not as much coffee as I used to, you know?
Right. You're not having to combat hangovers now, so you don't have to drink like
Right.
triple espresso with
Right. Right. And not that when you're newly sober and like they said, like ice cream and coffee were my life when I newly got sober. I was going through like pints of ice cream, like nobody's business. That was like my joy. Like, oh, on a Friday night, yeah, you guys are out drinking. I'm sitting here eating my ice cream from the carton. Like, it was honestly a better changeover. I no longer eat that much ice cream. But like it just, I don't know. Life is just better. I get what they were saying. The sky is bluer. The sun is
Mhm.
shinier. Like because I'm shinier.
Right.
I'm better. So I get
Mhm.
that. Um, I still am connected with a lot of women that I was in AA with. I'm still connected with some women that I was in prison with. Um, there's some people that they say what they have to say to get out. Um, but the genuine ones, like you find them and those are your people. That's your tribe. And we ended like one woman and I like ended up connecting so fiercely over God, over like of all things. Like
Mhm.
our love of God was like the first thing that brought us together. I mean, obviously being in jail brought us together,
Right.
but
Right,
having
right.
like a real understanding of faith was like that
Mhm.
bigger thing. And
That's
so
amazing.
yeah.
And so Kayla's plan for the future
Mm.
is
My little plan is I want to become a recovery coach. I want to help people. My bigger plan, because I have a bigger plan, because honestly, it wasn't a plan, it wasn't a thing. And then one day I was talking to someone about what I wanted to do, and it just came out, and I was like, oh, okay, God, that's where we're going. I want to take my recovery coach and counseling, and I want to morph it into a space for children from addicted parents, a place
mm,
for the children that their parents are addicts where they can come and have a safe space to talk and to have a person that understands. There was no one for me to talk to really growing up. It was back in the 90s, and like people weren't into therapy then,
mhm.
honestly. Like it was not a thing, I feel like, where you were like, oh, I want to talk about my feelings. Like
Right. Yeah. I don't what's your nationality?
so my biological father is Puerto Rican, and my mother is like white. Like she's a
Okay.
bunch of like white things. Like we've got like English and British and Dutch and Welsh and like a whole bunch of white things. And then my biological father is Puerto Rican. Like so
I
I'm
didn't know if it was like a family thing because, like, so my family's Sicilian. I'm actually from East Boston and from
okay.
New Hampshire. So, like, it's my family is Sicilian, and it's like you don't talk about your feelings, and like nothing goes like outside of the family.
Right. And so, like, my mom, when she got remarried to my stepdad, he was very, like, he's like German, I think, and some, like, a bunch of another white thing. But like his family was from like Boston and Maine, like up in that way. And so he was like, we don't talk, nothing goes out of the family. You don't talk, like, you don't talk about your feelings. If you have a problem,
Mhm.
you talk about it with your family members. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That's not how can you talk about your feelings if they're your, like, they're the problem right
Yeah.
now? Like, how do you talk about this? So like therapy was like, never, you don't do that. So now my stepdad actually passed away in 2021. And so my mom is very much so, like, she embraced therapy. I mean, especially all that happened after the cult, the alcoholism, the, like, I'm like, I need a therapist because I need to talk about this with people. Like, I can't just sit here and like dwell on the fact that when I was drinking, I call myself an emotional tornado dumpster fire because it was like you lit a dumpster on fire and it got thrown into a tornado. And that was me while I was drunk. I was that dumpster fire because you never knew what you were going to get. Happy
Mhm.
Kayla, naked Kayla, sad Kayla, angry Kayla. You never know. It was like a crapshoot. So yeah. So I really want to open a place that is for kids, and eventually, like, maybe their parents will come around and like use the recovery coach part of it, but I want to make it an all inclusive
Mhm.
place, especially inclusive for children, because
Mhm.
children is that I've been working with kids for too long. Like, just like my whole life, I feel like.
Do you think it
So,
would it be like faith based?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not like a pusher. Okay, I lied. I am a pusher. I'm a pusher of all the things we've decided. I used to
Same.
push alcohol and now I push sobriety. Um, but my outlook on religion, I don't really like organized religion,
Same. Mhm.
but I love my connection with my God. Like, my connection with my God is amazing and I want everyone to know about it. I will
Yes.
share it. I don't believe that. I don't believe in the hate that the organized religion spews
Right.
sometimes, because God is love. God is
Mhm.
acceptance. If God wants you to accept him, like,
Mhm.
you're already accepted by him. So like God is just like,
Right.
all right, I'm here, I'm waiting, arms wide open, like, come hither, like.
Mhm.
And so for me, yeah, like, I want other people to feel that. Like, I know when I pray in the morning and at nighttime and throughout the day, like, I feel God's presence. I know that I am safe. Like, and I want
Mhm.
other people to feel that. So
Right.
for me, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes, same. The free gift. God's love is free. It is free for everyone. It is a free gift
yeah,
of salvation, not just for eternity in heaven, but for heaven on earth.
yeah. Like,
So,
and that's it. Like, I love every, like, I honestly, I was supposed to go to a concert last night and I was like anxious, 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 anxious. And I was like, anxiety is from the devil. So I'm not going to this concert. Like, there's no way. I'm not going. And my mom's like, you already bought the ticket. And I was like, I don't care. Like, anxiety is from the devil. I'm having anxiety about this concert. I'm not
mhm.
going. Like, there's
Yes.
something is not going right at this
Yeah.
concert for me. And I'm not going. Like,
Yeah. The Holy
nope,
Spirit's like, don't do it. Don't do it.
girl, don't do it. Like, you sit
Mhm.
down. And actually, what ended up happening, our power, we had a bad storm here, and our power was out until like 3 o'clock this morning. I had
Oh,
no
wow.
power. So while I was sleeping, all of a sudden my AC finally turned on, the lights turned on. I was like, oh, thank goodness. And then I turned everything off and I was like, good night. Like, we're back to bed. But like I wouldn't have been able to even enjoy the concert knowing that I had no power, that like my family
Yeah.
was struggling, you know. So everything happens for a reason, and you know, I'm so grateful that you asked me to do this. I'm so grateful that we got it working, even though
Yeah.
it wasn't ideally what we wanted.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm telling you. I knew it too. I was like, "Oh, technical difficulties. I bet I know where this is going."
You did. You said it.
Can't stop the divine connection, Satan. Lord's going to have his way.
Right, right. But I'm so grateful. I'm grateful that you stumbled upon me. And I'm grateful that we were able to do this. And you
Yeah.
know, maybe we can dive into other things next time. You know.
Oh, yes, girl. Yes, I foresee us doing a lot of things in the future. So, well, I'm gonna end the live here. So
All
you guys
right.
make sure you subscribe to Jamie Tall on YouTube. Make sure you follow Kayla on Instagram. I put her username in the chat.